Unfortunately, my childhood was not a regular childhood, yeah. By the age of 5, I guess, I got diagnosed with ADHD and severe learning disabilities. Teachers of like 30 years of experience, and you're talking about in one of the best schools,
Yeah.
are like, this kid will never be able to read, learn, write, be articulate. Everything will be difficult for him,
Today we have with us a very special individual who has turned his disability into an ability, who genuinely believes in no shortcuts and has had a very difficult childhood.
Fortunately, I was very hardworking, So,
He has flipped his life 180 degrees and today he fights for inclusivity, diversity and equity. Not only that, he has had a stellar academic record and has went on to represent the country at the highest level of sport.
I used to tie my shoelaces very tight so my foot doesn't turn inwards, and that's how I used to run. Eventually finished my first half marathon in 2 hours 30 minutes.
His list of achievements can go on and on, but all the difficult childhood that he had today is been converted using sport as a medium to what he is today.
I just have to push my norms to create more impact and change in India. That's it. That's my goal. That's my life's purpose. I'm on the No Shortcut podcast, right?
Yes.
And my whole life is about that, if you see.
Feel the beat, we're rising high. Legends don't stop till they reach the sky.
No shortcuts.
It's about the work, no easy wins, just a focused mind.
No shortcuts.
The journey runs deep,
No shortcuts.
now hear them rise.
Hi Wafrid,
What's up?
welcome to the No Shortcuts podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
It's an absolute pleasure.
So the very first thing, we ask our guests is to get to know them a little bit more, what their childhood was like, where you were born, and just to understand a little bit about your early days.
So, okay, getting right into it. Born and brought up in Mumbai, South Mumbai. Unfortunately, my childhood was not a regular childhood, yeah. By the age of 5, I guess, I got diagnosed with ADHD and severe learning disabilities. ADHD being attention deficiency hyperactivity disorder. And with that, it's not necessarily that you get severe learning disabilities, but I had both of them. So, and I was in one of the best schools in South Mumbai, okay?
Right.
But I was thrown in the open to swim. Yeah, like that's what it was for me. But I think so, first grade was when I got my diagnosis of this,
Right.
By the fourth grade, teachers of like 30 years of experience, and you're talking about in one of the best schools,
Yeah.
are like, this kid will never be able to read, learn, write, be articulate. Everything will be difficult for him, Just shift him to a special school. Shift him to something like an NIOS, which is an open school at that point of time.
Right.
Now, there are more specialized schools for individuals with disabilities, autism, learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities, like Aditya Birla Integrated.
Yeah.
And they're specialized schools. But that time it was only NIOS,
Correct. There was nothing, just a regular school and a special school. That's it.
which is NIOS. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So yeah, I mean that was the option. I had that in me that why to change
Correct.
my school, which is such a good school, such a good playground, such a good ethos of sports. Why to change it, right? Like close to my place, then which school I get where.
And you make friends also, in your early grades, and you want to stay with them till your 10th grade.
Exactly. Again, friends was very difficult for me because I always stood out, and I was like the most you can call it the kid with the most amount of disabilities from almost like 1st to 10th grade. So that's what my case was. So friends was sort of, I would say, Yeah, pretty difficult, you know.
Why was it difficult? I mean, it's okay to have disabilities, you know. You're
But
also a
yeah,
human
but you're
being.
talking about 1995 to 2010.
Uh-huh.
I don't think there was much of what do you call it, inclusion in Indian society at all, especially even in the best of the best schools, you know.
Yeah.
It was very much a question mark path. So yeah, any which ways, right? Now by the fourth grade, I almost failed my fourth grade. It was that tough for me.
Right.
Fast forward a little bit, you know, and I'm like, yeah, this teacher, what she said is right, you know. I mean, I did almost fail my fourth grade, you know. Now how will I be able to do my fifth grade, sixth grade? And it's an ICSE school. I mean, how do I do it?
Correct.
You know, and ICSE is not easy, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, now with that, fortunately, I was very hardworking, you know. So I think so. Yeah, fourth grade was the grade where I left all my extracurricular activities. So
Okay.
there was no sports for me after the fourth grade. Schooling from 9:30 to 3:35, and then from 5:30 to 9:30 in the night was either remedial therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, physiotherapy, you name it, and I've been through it.
So as a 9-year-old, you were going through all of this when everybody else was, you know, having
Yeah.
fun, going for picnics, having trips like that.
Yes, and I had to work much more harder, right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing, which draws a synonym for me, okay, is and it's ironical because I didn't even think about this. I'm on the No Shortcut podcast, right?
Yes.
And my whole life is about that, if you see.
Right.
So I mean, I'm on the No Shortcut podcast, and holistically in my life, I've always unfortunately have to overwork and work way more than able-bodied individuals to actually create a mark.
Yes. Yes.
And what I feel is that one individual with a disability needs to at least overwork themselves, unfortunately, in Indian society, even today,
Correct.
and work much better than 5 able-bodied individuals to actually create a mark or impact in Indian society, wherever.
Yes.
Job, sports, training, you name it. And this is what India is at this point of time.
Correct.
Going back again, Parth, so with now me putting in way more efforts, right, to study and to study hard, there was a lot of bullying, like a lot of bullying.
Oh, you were bullied by your friends in school.
So I call it holistically being bullied. That's what I term it as. What do I mean by being holistically bullied? By that I mean being bullied by teachers, educators, that ye kar nahi payega.
Correct.
Shift him to a normal school, a special school, right? Doctors were like, I think a special school will be better. It'll be much more easier for you all as parents also. Parents whose children were sort of friends, not friends exactly, you can just say like acquaintances, I would name. So till in today's date, unfortunately, I'm not in touch with anyone from my school except one person. That's it. That is what my school friend life has carried on to adult life.
Only one person.
Only one person.
But at a point where you were making that extra effort after school and putting in so much effort to make a mark and appear normal and not appear as a problem to other people at school, but teachers and doctors were kind of not also taking that extra effort like you were.
Exactly.
So how did you feel at that time, and what did your parents tell to you at that moment?
So, at that point of time, my parents were like, they didn't mention it as such, or they didn't like. They were like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever the kid wants, we'll support the child. And okay, he wants to do it from a normal school. Okay, cool, let him do it from a normal school. It's okay. Let's see, 1 year after the other,
Yeah.
That's it. But what made it so difficult for me was the system. Now, there were incidents, of bullying, okay, in my school, where even like the loser group, so there are always those groups in school, anyone watching this video will be like, oh yeah, of course, there are groups, in school.
Correct.
The cool kids group, the sporty group, the backbenchers, then the thoda loser wannabe group. So even I was so blessed that even the wannabe group or the losers didn't want to get to know me. That is what it was for me. That is what friends were for me in school.
You were pretty much aloof. By yourself.
Very much aloof.
They were bullying you. It was a very hard time. I mean, for a 10-year-old to get bullied at school, what worse can that happen? 8 hours of school and that also bullying.
And I'm very open about it. It didn't stop only with physical and verbal abuse. There were times 2-3 kids, I know it was only 2 or 3 kids, as and when there was sexual abuse too. And it was like, yeah, it's a boys' school, all this happens, it's just what it is. Kids will toughen up. That's what it was.
That was normalized.
It was
that
normalized.
Kind of attitude was normalized.
It was actually normalized. It was shocking, but it was normalized. And it's not like I never used to see that happening to other people also. It was happening to other people also. So for me in my school, then it was like, okay, cool, it's happening to that person. Oh, it's cool. It can happen with me also.
Yeah.
But later when you grow up, right, you realize that
this was not normal.
This wasn't normal, man. Like, what was all of this, right?
Correct.
But any which ways, I mean...
so then after your 5th standard, you gradually, how were your...
So I'll tell you, now I want to get into those incidents, which are very impactful part.
Yeah.
So there were times when, kids, I used to go on a school bus, okay? So there were times when the kids used to, spit on the floor and force me to lick it. Now if I didn't do it, then they used to tell me to lick their shoes. Now if I didn't do it, okay, Parth, they never used to allow me to leave the bus. So then I had to miss my bus stop, go back to school, catch a public transport, and then go back home. So that's how, I'm just naming like one instance. Then there were instances of, them throwing pellets on my face, then slapping me publicly. There was a time where this guy tells me, and I'm very, see, some people might like it, some people might not like it, right? But this is what Indian society was for me. So I believe that it needs to be addressed as it is. Because today what I'm doing, and when we reach to that, people should understand that, okay, this kid is doing all of this because he's been through all of this. Like, there was this one other instance which was very impactful and which was very traumatic, where there was this group of friends who took me to a place, to one bungalow of theirs in Nargol, just to bully me. And they were like, they treated me the best of the best. Oh, we are your friends, we love you, ye, wo, all of that. And they just took me over there to bully me. They didn't allow me to take a train to go back home. So these were individuals or characters which unfortunately I had to come across in Indian society.
No man, it's even hard to hear, and you went through all of this,
these are just
very
few
horrendous incidents, very horrendous, and it's hard to hear. I can't take it. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps right now.
So,
but
I mean,
you dealt through all of this, and I'm sure people gave a blind eye to a lot of what you were going through.
Yeah. A lot of it was, who is he? What is he? what is he going to do in life? They always thought me to be the dirt of Indian society. Or the dirt of, let's not say Indian, let's say of society.
Right.
So that's what their ideology was of an individual like me. So my life was like a public story for people to laugh on.
Shit, man.
And now I laugh on it like as if it's nothing.
I know.
But somewhere all of that has created a lot of mental health issues and mental health challenges, which I have to deal with now.
I can imagine, man. So, whenever someone bullies you or, does something to you, it doesn't escape you. It stays inside. And later in life, it comes out in different shapes and forms. And today we're talking about mental health, inclusion, diversity. But back then, these words were not there in our dictionaries. People, as much as it sounds South Bombay, which we think as, mini America, or people who have a broad mindset travel abroad, but it wasn't the case, And, as we're speaking, I'm also recollecting that movie Tare Zameen Par in 2007-8, I think in that time. In that, there's this kid, Ishan Awasthi. So why I brought that up is because, he portrayed the learning disability in that. And that movie beautifully captures how, the teacher, Dr. Nikunj, he, kind of turned the child's disability into an ability. And I think that was a defining moment, which was also a strong message to the Indian society that, people with, who are specially abled are a part of us. They're not some alien or some creatures, and they should be more inclusive. Did that change the attitude of people? Did it make a mark or something?
I would say not much. There were, of course, though I'm talking about how difficult it was for me, there were few gems of teachers, who understood me, who went out of the way to make me understand, who understood my parents and stuff like that. Because there were times, because I find it very difficult to write even today, and that is my major difficulty, okay? With, of course, various other things. But, wherever I find it difficult to write, okay, I used to take like Xerox copies of my friends' notes and stuff like that, right? And that was my life. However, I used to study like that only. Topper ka notes le lo and just like go through it. That's how I used to always study. But there were times where parents used to call my parents and say that, listen, your child really needs to buck up. It's not our child's fault. You cannot ask him of his notes and this and that and all of that all the time. Sorry, this is not done. My child has enough to deal with. That's it. And again, it's very ironical that they said, oh, my child has a lot to deal with.
Exactly. I mean, it's actually, we are dealing with a lot of
and
things.
You're talking about educated, well-established parents of the creme a la creme of Indian society.
But coming back to your friend, you're mentioning you're still in touch with him. And also a couple of teachers who kind of were with you. Let's give them a shout out. And
I swear it. I mean, few of them really, really deserve it.
Yeah.
And few of them, like my PE sir, he was always like bindas.
Okay.
तू कुछ ना कुछ तो कर ही लेगा जिंदगी में.
Yeah.
So there were few people and few characters who were very fun-loving and
I'm sure.
Who really also believed in me. There were few teachers who actually said that, listen, there is some misunderstanding which has happened and this kid is not like that. He genuinely puts in hard work.
Correct.
Because there were a few teachers who even after the tests were done, they used to tell me to wait back and they used to help me out with the answers. So I just pass,
I'm sure.
So I've come across such teachers also.
No.
But amongst 20, 30, 35 teachers, 4-5 of them were like that.
There might be such rays of hope for you. I mean,
You tell me about it. You tell me about it. I mean, a blessing in disguise, you know.
I know. Those people are, like shining armor, and they make so much difference.
Hands down.
Not only you, but there's so many individuals. You give a little bit of hope, and it makes their day. We don't know what storm a person is going through inside. Everyone looks okay from the outside, but find such individuals, and they give you hope. There's nothing like it.
You tell me about it. You tell me about it.
Yeah.
I graduated with distinction.
Wow.
Without any concessions, only extra time. I wasn't allowed to drop maths. I was only allowed to drop science, and that was the first batch of ours which was allowed to drop science.
Correct.
And without any friends, with all that bullying, with all the trauma, with ADHD medications, with that traumatic last year, 10 standard,
Yeah.
I graduated with distinction. That's when the teachers go like, okay, listen, we messed up.
They got
This
a
kid
small taste of who Hafrid Bilimoria is.
Exactly.
That's when the turning point struck, and rest is, of course, as we're talking.
So that was the main this, and that is the main thing which every time I remember in tough situations or situations which I feel are like I will not be able to complete a race or become or do that 12-hour swim or whatever. So fast forward a little bit more path. 11th, 12th, the bullying continued, but I got a lot more concessions.
Right.
Again, I graduated with distinction
In a 12th standard.
in my 12th standard.
Amazing.
So this is shocking, right?
Yeah, of
you
course.
know, from where I come from, given zero hope, already I should be well accomplished. I should be कि हाँ यार I've achieved quite a lot.
Yeah,
ठीक है.
now I should be accepted now.
Exactly. But I guess that acceptance bit is a constant battle and a struggle. And a lot of individuals with disabilities also, Parth, I'm talking even Paralympians. It is a constant battle of acceptance even for Paralympians. But
What happened after 12 then?
After 12th, right? So after 12th, then I wanted to do my hotel management.
Okay.
Now, I unfortunately by the 11th grade, I overcame ADHD, learning disabilities.
With all the therapy that was going on,
Yeah.
extra work.
Dropped my ADHD medications, so I did not require ADHD medications.
Lovely.
Hit the gym, losing weight, all of that.
Lovely.
But then 11th standard, I got diagnosed with a chronic neurological disorder called as dystonia.
Oh.
So it causes these involuntary movements, which I have even now as we talk, which is it's affected my entire right side.
Right.
It's basically involuntary movements where the nerve endings in your brain overfire. So therefore the muscles, it's a neuromuscular disorder.
It's a neuromuscular disorder.
And that's where the twitching and the tremoring,
Oh.
the tremors happen.
Right. So just when you were healing from ADHD and other things,
And all the childhood trauma.
all that childhood trauma, at the age of 16, 17, you came to know that you have dystonia, which is essentially a neurological disorder in which your muscles contract uncontrollably.
Yeah.
So how did this come as a news to you, your parents?
So I guess it was genetic. It was then my great grandmother. It skipped two generations to come into me.
I see.
So I like to say it like this, that I'm blessed that the creme a la creme of illnesses come into me, and then it's like God, He just wants to use me to show everyone that, okay, listen, if this kid can do it, you can do it too.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. That's what I feel it is. Because after a point of time, I just don't know how to take it, right? Like, I get the newest of the newest illnesses in the market, So if anything comes now from any other continent in this, sometimes I feel I'll be the first person to get it in India, So, or I'll be the first person to get it to India.
Today you're so, you're open and ready for any challenge. Come, disability, come. I'm ready to, prove the world that.
So, I think part that comes from when you don't fear anything.
Yeah.
So, I have lost the fear of anything.
Yeah.
And that you'll come to know a little bit later.
Yes.
Experienced it all in my life so what a 55-year-old working corporate Indian will go through, I've gone through at 25.
Yeah.
What do I have to see? I just have to push my norms to create more impact and change in India. That's it. That's my goal. That's my life's
Yeah.
purpose. That's it.
Yes.
That's all I think about,
Yes.
dream about, and that's it.
Yes.
Okay. Anyways, going back.
Coming back to you were diagnosed with dystonia.
Yeah.
And then you graduated from 12th with flying colors.
Yeah.
After
yeah.
that, take us.
So
to that journey.
then I wanted to do my hotel management. I wanted to do
Okay.
it from the best hotel management colleges in India. Otherwise, I don't want to do it. So I got into one of the best hotel management colleges in India.
Okay.
And now over there were involuntary movements. There's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
kitchen practicals.
Correct.
So Monday, Tuesday, I used to cut my fingers because the involuntary movements. You get me?
I get you.
And
Yeah.
every Monday, Tuesday, I used to cut my fingers.
Oh.
So I used to tape them up every Monday, Tuesday, and I used to hide them also because if they see me in the kitchen
So
bleeding,
they won't allow you.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I used to hide them, and so 3 long years was like that. I almost failed my first semester in hotel management because it was so tough.
Correct.
It's one of the
It's very rigorous.
It's very
and
rigorous.
it's long hours in the kitchen. You have to keep
and
standing.
even theory work.
Right.
Even that is not easy. And when you're in one of the best institutes, it's even more grueling. It's like
Yes.
rogering you. They roger you
Yeah,
day
yeah.
in and day out. It's like IIM Ahmedabad, you know.
I'm sure.
So it's like that, you know, where they make you the toughest of the toughest.
They make you
That's-
ready to.
That's
for
how
the
it
market.
was. That's how it
Yeah.
was. So I almost failed my first semester. Then I got a hang of it.
Uh-huh.
3rd year, that happens. Doctors were like, listen, go easy on him. He's already gone through a lot. He might not survive this. My mom was like, "Arey, chill na, just go, give it. We've gone through so much.
Yeah.
Kya hoga? You'll get few KTs. We'll see about that later." I go give it.
Correct.
At last, my practicals always happen after my theory exams.
Uh-huh.
I gather some strength in my practical exams, give my practical exams, and
You
then I
sail
realize
through.
that in that semester, I've got the most marks than I have in any other semester. In spite of not studying, just not throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
That's when I learned another lesson that in life, regardless of your situation, circumstance, all of that, right?
Yeah.
If you don't give up on one thing which you really
Yeah.
believe in, which is your goal, dream, whatever you call it, there is no chance that you will fail. There is no chance.
Yeah.
There is no chance in the world. If I, through all of that, can achieve that,
I know.
I think anyone can reach their dreams, goals, and whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
So that's one important lesson I learned at that point
Never
of time.
give up.
Yeah. That was my first tattoo also. So anyways.
Correct.
But yeah.
So you.
And no
three-
shortcuts.
No shortcuts.
So yeah.
Correct. So I think, those 3 years in hotel management and the little pep talk from your mom, keep going. You're doing great. We'll cover it up if we fall back in a couple of subjects. That really made you sail through. So you finally graduated
With distinction from one of the best hotel management colleges in India. Right. At that point of time, it was just, listen, I have to graduate from the best schools and colleges because they told me I will never be able to pass my 4th grade.
Right.
That was on my head. And I got to show these teachers and these educators and these professionals and all of that.
Yeah. Correct.
And eventually I did just that. But later on, the job sphere, it gave me a lot of difficulty when I came out in the open.
After graduating.
Yeah, because
Right.
that time, I think so, 21, right? So I'm 29. So 7-8 years pehle, or 10 years pehle, 10 to 7 years pehle, diversity, equity, inclusion tha nahi. It's just been 4.5-5 years that diversity, equity, inclusion has come in.
Yeah.
Companies have to do it. Big companies to do it any which ways.
Correct.
All of that. So that point of time when I came out in the open, they were like, yeah, we can fit someone else who's better into the team. Why take a kid like this with
Nobody
additional-
was wanted to include you as part of the.
I was a baggage.
Yeah.
That's what I was, in plain terms.
But didn't your, stellar records and your marks, and you have proved yourself. You have gone through the practicals
So all
and
of that
everything.
didn't matter when...
Didn't that matter to the HR?
All of that didn't matter when I came out in the open. In fact, in one organization, there was this director who passed a comment that bandha bahut sahi hai, but thoda dheela hai. Where other managers actually stood up and said that, listen, he's damn sharp. He's gone through a lot. He's fought way more than other individuals to reach where he is. And you all are losing a diamond more than anything. So a lot of people from marketing and all of that, They went up and they told that director and stuff. But then till then I was like, yaar, if a person doesn't respect me like that and he says that, you know, and then I hear that, I don't want to work for any organization like that.
Correct.
So at that point of time, I was like, yaar, listen, I am not going to work for organizations after one point of time. I'm going to make organizations work for me. Because if they don't see the value in my journey,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I do not see the value in their organization then. Simple. I mean, it might be too crass, but I've gone through a lot, man. And I'm not here to take anyone's crap at this point of time. So then I decided to do my master's in social work and disability studies and action from
okay.
TIS.
So all of this, kind of instigated you to turn the tables and,
Create impact.
Create impact. That's your turning point, if I may say.
Yeah. You know that them, treating me as a baggage, in the workplace and stuff like that. That switched the tables. That listen, okay, I need to study this to actually create more of an impact.
Oh.
Now.
Then you got into TIS, the Tata Institute for Social Science.
Yes. So between 12th grade and TIS first year, I had worked for like 1.5, 2 years.
Okay.
Then I got into TIS.
Okay, so you worked
So
for a while.
21, 22 I worked. 23 I got into TIS. So any which ways, at that point of time, I got into mixed martial arts.
Okay.
I started in the 11th grade itself, I think so.
Okay.
But I got more proper and more this regular in the 12th
more serious
grade.
into the 12th grade.
Yeah.
Into mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
MMA.
Yeah. And graduation bhi to tha. Yeah, so full of graduation I was into MMA.
Okay.
Yeah. And that made me really, really strong. Because I could match the same stamina and this of other individuals and able-bodied individuals. So that gave me a lot of hope that sports is for me,
Yes.
And I had a lot of anger and rage and the bullying and all of that.
Yeah.
So it helped with all of that also. And then I wanted to become a professional fighter, as I told you. And I was really good. But those punches were making my condition worse. And then I didn't want to do that. So when I entered TIS, I changed from mixed martial arts to endurance sports.
That shift happened
In TIS.
when you were doing your MA.
In social work and disability studies.
And disability studies. Wow.
And action.
Yeah. So how from IHM,
Even that is a crazy story.
Working at an organization and then, turning tables. There's a lot of, decision making and thought process that might have gone through you in your hindsight.
Actually, it was luck. I'll tell you what.
Okay.
Because I was working in... I got a management trainee program just out of my this. There were a lot of corporate issues over there. For whatever reasons, for the DI policy not being there, DI not coming in the Indian market, all of that. It wasn't their fault also.
Yeah.
Just give them a leeway, give them a pat on their back, say that, okay, chalo, you all tried your best,
Yeah.
You always at last have to see the good in others, right? You'll never progress. See, I don't believe in all these people say, right, like forget your past. I say, boss, never forget your past. But always forgive all what has happened in your past.
Forgive but don't forget.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my logic. Because you not forgetting things will actually make you accomplish. That'll be fuel for your car to drive your car to achieve things. That's me. That's my logic. Right. People might think otherwise.
Yeah.
But then that's again difference of opinion.
Yeah, of course, it's and how we are programmed as individuals because we all have our own way of thinking, our own way of tackling things. So I think the fire in your belly has stemmed from all what you went through your childhood, leading up to your corporate job.
True. So I'll tell you how that shift also happened, Parth. So hotel management, I got into that MT program. MT program put me in foreign exchange. Foreign exchange numbers is not my thing, yaar.
Yeah.
You didn't allow me to drop maths over there in my 10th grade. कैसे भी करके मैं 50 mark लाया. उसके बाद at least 11th, 12th में I could drop maths. That's why I left. Then I got into human resources, learning and development.
Okay.
Which I loved doing, and I was really good at my work. I was exceptional at my work. But as I said, one of the directors passed a comment that, banda bahut sahi hai, but thoda deela hai. So I wanted to get
That
into...
hit you.
Yeah, that hit me. And I wanted to get into TIS HR LRM, which is one of the best courses for HR and LRM after XLRI.
Correct. XLRI Jamshedpur.
Yeah. So after that, TIS HR LRM is one of the best.
Right.
I wanted to get into that, but I get stuck on the wait list on number 1, and I get into the School of Social Work and Disability Studies and Action, the first person to get into the school, and the kid with the most rankings to get into that school. I was like, okay, cool, this is destined. By that point of time, I had already started advocacy of all what I'd been through and stuff like that.
Yes, you started talking about it, telling people about what you've been through, your story.
Exactly.
Right.
So it was like a calling, like just do this.
Just do this. Yeah.
I did it 2 years. Then 2 years after that, I worked in PR and communications, heading an NGO for parents and children with autism.
Yeah.
After that, I took a 1 year break to complete my Ironman, and then I worked in a a restauranting industry in learning and development and DEI.
Correct.
Then right now I'm working again in a mixture of DEI and LRM.
If you heard till now, I'm sure you're enjoying the show. Don't forget to subscribe our channel at YouTube, Scott Sports India. Follow us on Instagram at Scott Sports India. Hit the Epilogue Media app and follow #NoShortcuts or on Spotify. Now let's get back to the show. So we'll definitely come to the DEI part. Before that, sport today is a defining part of your identity. You have used it as a medium to channel all the inner angst and trauma. You come into endurance sport and start cycling. After mixed martial arts, you chose endurance sport. So walk us through the entire journey of how you use cycling and endurance sport to define who you are today and build a life of purpose and satisfaction.
So, as I said, mixed martial arts, the punches were making my dystonia worse, so that's why I shifted to endurance sports. I started off with running, okay. Now, unfortunately, I used to run even with mixed martial arts, but I used to run just for the fitness part of it. I never used to run to create the stamina, the endurance, to train my heart to actually, pull me that distance and stuff like that. All that was very new. But I got into running. Now, in the start, because of the dystonia, my right leg used to turn inwards constantly. So every 1.5 kilometer, I used to fall down. Eventually, I didn't fall down till 5 kilometers. So I just fell.
Never give up.
No shortcuts. Do not forget that. But then dhire, I increased that this. Oh, there's a very interesting story just before that,
right?
Which is very funny.
Okay.
So there was this again leading movement specialist in Mumbai, okay, who told me the only option which you have, how some doctors are, right? They're very like poker faced, and they're like, the only hope you have now is Botox injections, medications, lifelong, or deep brain stimulation, which is a brain surgery where they shove an electrode in your brain. These are your only options. Maybe in the future you'll require a wheelchair, maybe you won't. You never know. And I lose it. By that point of time, I've gone through a lot.
Right.
I do not care how senior or a good of a doctor you are if you're not a good human being. Simple. So if you're poker faced, you're not emotionally present. So I lost it. And I shouldn't have said that, but I said, "Doctor, do you have a daughter or a son?" So the doctor is shocked. He says, "Daughter." I said, "Okay, doc, if she had dystonia, would you shove an electrode in her brain and talk like this? How you would be talking to me?" He was shocked. "What are you saying? This, that. Please get out. This, that." Yes, thank you, doctor. I'm getting out. Thank you for your time. My dad and mom are looking at each other and they're like, shit, what is he saying? This is the leading movement specialist in India, right?
Correct.
Not India, in Mumbai, sorry.
Yes.
Kya bol raha hai, you know?
Yeah.
And I just walked out. And that is the time I said that, listen, whatever happens, I'm not going to give up. And from the age of 16 till the age of 18, 19, I did not, till I started endurance sport,
Correct.
I did not see a neurologist only.
Oh.
I was like, I don't need to. Because there is no cure to this.
Yeah.
At last it is like all manageable.
Might as well fight it.
Exactly.
Fight it out. Yeah.
So, coming back to this, I used to tie my shoelaces very tight. So my foot doesn't turn inwards. And that's how I used to run. Eventually finished my first half marathon in 2 hours 30 minutes, which is a decent time. Decent time.
You know, with dystonia, even doing everyday tasks is such a problem. But you went on to do a marathon. I mean, that itself is even completing one is a big task.
So I did
big
that.
Achievement.
Then I did a personal best of 2 hours 12 minutes. Now that is fast, you know.
Yeah. Even able-bodied people
do not get that time that easy. So I was like, wow, cool, you know. Then I got into swimming.
Okay, so it's mixed martial arts, running, then swimming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cycling was the last because cycles are so expensive. It's not my fault also, you know, that the bikes are so expensive, you see. But yeah, cycling was last. But cycling has a different story to it. But yeah, anyways. So swimming. Started with just regular pool swims. Graduated to open water swim, which was a 2.5 kilometer swim in Bangalore at Lake Thannur. Then fast forward a little bit more. Then I decided I want to do 5 kilometers in open waters. I did that also. Became the fastest ever person with my condition in the world to complete a 5 kilometer swim. Then I was like, what else can you do? Has anyone with dystonia in the world swam for 10 kilometers in open waters? No one did. So I was like, cool, let's do it. There were 12 participants off the beach of Juhu. And this was a 10 kilometer swim. From that, there were 2 full Ironman finishers. The reason I'm telling you this, because from those 12 people, there were only 4 people who finished. And both those Ironman participants, they opted out. That's how difficult the conditions were.
And you made it.
And I made it. Then there was this other guy swimming for the English Channel. One was a national level open water swimmer. And then there were 2 crazy people. One crazy Punjabi guy and one crazy Parsi guy. With multiple issues and disabilities. So I guess that craziness you require.
Yeah.
By that point of time, again, I was never... See, the best thing about me now, a lot of individuals go into endurance sports with, what will happen? I might die, this, that.
Yeah.
But you know, individuals...
Will it even harm my disability more?
Blah, blah, blah. But, you know, the most dangerous people in endurance sports are the people who are not afraid of death. Is what I believe in. The individuals who are not afraid of death, the most dangerous individuals you can come across in endurance sports. Now for me, it was like also because of my trauma, mental health issues, all of that which I got, you know, later on, debilitating clinical anxiety, OCD, depression. I'm very open about it. I had tried taking my life 2-3 times. So, I mean, I had nothing to lose. I didn't care about mera aage piche kaun hai. I was fearless. I was like, I am ready to die in this water.
Right.
What is there to lose?
There's
At least
nothing
you'll
to
die trying. You've already tried dying, right? It didn't work out. Now at least try dying while creating impact, you know.
Right.
That was my whole logic. Though I'm talking about it casually, but you'll need to understand where I come from and what my cause and what how important my goal is for me.
Correct.
And what I'm ready to give up for getting that. So I complete that.
So that you did. And now when you did all the runs and the swims, you know, you started becoming the fastest
also.
Fastest, you know. How did it, give you a lot of motivation to continue and do what you're doing? Was that also feeling very rewarding?
Yes,
And then you
110%.
came into cycling.
110%.
Let's get to that piece. How you thought about-
Of course. So I did that 10 kilometer swim. Okay. And after that, I just did one more to just better my time. And in the first one, from the 8th kilometer to the 10th kilometer, I cut my ankle open from my ankle to my little toe finger. So I was bleeding in salt water for the last 3 kilometers. I get that done regardless. So I come out on the beach and I'm like bleeding, and the organizers are like, listen, why didn't you stop? I said, I don't understand stopping, I don't understand throwing in the towel. That's something which I cannot comprehend. That's been again in my life throughout. Fast forward, I get into cycling. And I get into cycling. Why? Because I read about an Ironman and I was like, shit, this is crazy. Who does this?
Ironman, you read about it.
Yeah, who does this? Who stupidity, But what if you can be the fastest ever person with all your conditions in India, and then the fastest ever person with dystonia to complete it in the world? Imagine what impact it will create if an underdeveloped sport like triathlon, and you are the fastest from all the individuals in the world with dystonia.
I swear.
So that was the goal, and that was the logic.
Goal. You read about Ironman. So you're
Yeah.
already doing running and you did swimming. After that, you came to know there's a thing called, bike, run, swim. And then you set your goals. Okay, now
swim, bike, run. Let's get the order right.
Of course. I mean, swim, bike, and run. So this is what is my next goal.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this thing called Ironman, a triathlon, and come to the fore and prove everybody that even a person with disability can.
Not only disability, right? Multiple disabilities.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the goal.
So how was your first Ironman and the preparation? What challenges did you face?
Which one did I
with
do?
Your disabilities.
My first half distance was Kolhapur, Bergman.
Okay.
Which we always very good race. An Indian organizer. Really cool race.
Yes.
I give a shout out to them because they really do a good job, man. Anyways, so I did that as the first race. But before that and before the build up, okay, I was training. I got diagnosed with the fistula, which is like piles. Okay, I get operated for that. Then COVID comes, so I get operated. I recover. COVID comes.
Oh.
My entire family is in the hospital. I could lose my entire family. All of that. We overcome all of that. Then we get into, and then I'm like, abhi to karna hi hai Ironman,
Correct.
Like I've gone through so much. So the goal was to do Ironman Dubai.
Okay.
In the build-up race, I did Kolhapur.
Kolhapur, right.
Lot of anxiety, lot of
Your first time. Yeah.
because first time and stuff like that.
Correct.
So a lot of panic attacks, a lot of anxiety. It was very difficult. But even in that build-up, when I started cycling, Parth, there were times because of the involuntary movements from my road bike, I used to keep on falling down.
Yeah, tell us about that, yaar. With dystonia, how did you even ride a bike? People can't even think of it. But you rode a bike.
So, the involuntary movements were quite persistent on the bike. But after a point of time, it was same as swimming and running. That the more your muscles get used to it, and the more you train your muscle memory, regardless of dystonia, the more easier it gets for you.
I see.
So I would say the starting 6 months was me falling down from the bike. I used to wear, mountain bike
those guards and
pedals
and
shoes, because it's easier to clip in and clip off from them.
Right.
On the road bike itself. Then eventually I shifted. As I got my confidence, I shifted to cleats. Now, the biggest problem on the road bike was a lot of people take so many things, riders and able-bodied individuals, they take drinking water on the bike so casually. But for me, it was like, it took me a year and a half, 2 years to learn how to take my bottle out of my lower cage and drink it, And that also I could only do it in an integrated bike handle. I couldn't do it in an alloy, in my old alloy, because it was so sensitive. The integrated one wasn't that sensitive, you know. So I found a little bit sturdiness in that.
Correct.
Where I could, you know, do all of the...
Even a simple task of, you know,
I mean,
plucking
it
your
took
bottle
me
and
2
it took you 2
years.
years.
So, yeah, before that, you know how I used to race with a guide, and that person used to, I used to either wear a camel backpack.
Okay. Yeah.
Or then, in Ironman Goa, one of my friends, Ayush, big shout out to him, he literally is like, listen, time waste नहीं करने का यार, चल हाँ मेरे को खत्म करने का, मेरे को सोने का है. I'm like, भाई इधर मतलब मेरी फटी पड़ी है तो तू सोने का, हाँ यार सोने का है यार. And then, so from one bottle, you know, he's just like catching the bottle like that, and he's like, you know, he's like throwing, I'm like a dog, you know, like ha, and then he's throwing water into my mouth. And that's how he's hydrating me, right, on the bike.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, crazy. I've had crazy experiences like that.
Tell us about your, you know, a race you were participating in, and, you know, kind of suppose you...
So, I did Dubai after Kolhapur. Okay.
And you completed it.
And I not only completed it, I came... third in the PC category.
Okay.
So I basically won the you can say won the race. There were almost 15 to 20 people with disabilities in my category, and I came third from that. Completed the race, I think so, in 6 hours 55 minutes or something like that. And in Kolhapur I had done it in 8 hours 5 minutes. So there was a lot of gap which I built up over there. And it was a good race. It was a lovely race.
And you felt good about the Ironman.
Oh,
what
it
you had
was...
set your eyes on, and you've back to Ironman.
It was crazy because with that Ironman, I become the fastest ever person with multiple disabilities in India to do it. Fastest ever person with dystonia in the world to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there were a lot of first and fastest.
All these titles, you know, fastest, first.
Then a month later was full Ironman.
Okay.
South Africa. That was tough. That was another... So I wouldn't suggest South Africa to any person who hasn't really done a lot of triathlons. I feel I made the mistake of not having that many triathlons in my bag and then doing...
a full one. Correct. It was very arduous.
It's crazy. So just the day of the race, there's a thunderstorm, and the pro card is the race is cut short. You know, the swim is only 750-800 meters. For us, it wasn't even there, but it started raining hail. So people's visors and stuff on the bike started breaking down. And people used to literally, they were bleeding, you know, just before the race was starting. So, you know, my guide first thing told me, take out tera goggles, take out your goggles, take out my goggles. And we are on the bike. Now, the most difficult thing of South Africa was the headwinds. And it was hell. With the headwinds, it was also the climate change. Correct. You know, the disparity in the climate was crazy. By noon it was like 30 degrees, and then in the start it was 10 degrees or something, touched to 30 degrees, touched back to 10 degrees. Run, okay, as I completed 20 kilometers left. I think I thought I would never be able to do it because my body was shutting down, hypothermic. I was almost like literally like dying, you know, while I was last 20 kilometers. All my toenails were in my shoes. I shat myself, peed myself. It was bad.
Last 20 kilometers. Then?
And that's the time I realized all what I've been through.
Right.
The bullies, the bullying.
It was all
the trauma.
Showing up
it was
in
all
your
showing
eyes.
up in my head, right? One after the other.
Correct.
I was like, cool, let's just not give up. Let's just see how it goes, you know. I was few of the last individuals to complete it.
Wow.
But I realized, in spite of that, there's only one person with dystonia in the entire world from Canada who's completed a full Ironman. and just within the 2 seconds of the cutoff. And I had done it almost an hour, 2 hours before the cutoff. So in spite of that, it made me the fastest ever person with dystonia in the world to complete a full Ironman.
No, that's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, the list of achievements you've done with your abilities and how you've not given up and fought through all of these challenges. And today you've done the full Ironman also. And all of this leading up to, you made our country proud last year. Why don't you walk us through about that feeling, what you won?
So after this, Parth, I was like, what else can you do? Like, how hungry are you, right? What else can you do? What else can you do? And all of this, what I was doing, I was drawing relevance with, like, I want to create impact for DEI in India. That no other kid goes through what I have gone through in India and in Indian society. No kid.
Correct.
No parent has to go through what I went through. That is my main goal. I read about a 12-hour swim. So this was just before that, the time I represented our country. Hardly 4-5 kilometers I swam in the build-up of the race. And I complete that race covering 17.3 kilometers. Again, it's never been done before by any person with dystonia. I did that to create impact for people with dystonia, kids with disabilities, and everything what I stand for. Then, just last year, as you said, I wore the Indian triathlon suit to represent India in the Asian Championship, because Asian Championship is equivalent to Asian Games. So, because Asian Games doesn't have para triathlon, so that's why. So, created history by getting India's first Asian Championship medal.
That's insane.
It was crazy, yeah.
It was crazy. I mean, to wear the Indian tricolor from, what you were written off earlier, and winning the bronze, wearing the Indian flag, holding it in your hands at the podium. I think that was
the epitome of where I had to reach, right?
Exactly,
and where I'm going or where I'm getting at.
Correct.
110%. Because just imagine, right? The same platform and the same people, okay, who literally spewed hate on you. I'm talking everyone, teachers, educators, every single person, on the same platform which made fun of you, which was social media. The same platform has changed a 180.
And now everybody wants to associate with you. They want to take your name. They want to say he was in my school. I ate food with him. I helped him in this. I helped him in that. Today they want to tag along with you.
And all of that is what? Why? Because I took no shortcuts. I never gave up. I had that resilience. I had that hunger that...
Correct.
I'm not scared of death, yaar. Like, I have faced death till 25 a lot. I'm hungry for more. So I did that in Uzbekistan. Okay, I got classified in Spain. Then from Spain I came back. I had very less time. Went back to Uzbekistan. And in that race, you won't believe it, one day before the race, okay, my tire liners, they completely disintegrate and puncture my bike. Now in Uzbekistan is such a place where you do not get anything. So my coach, we both are like stressed that what do we do with the bike? Then we get an old used, I don't think it was used, but an old tube, okay, 28-inch tube.
Somehow you managed.
And guess where was it sourced from? India.
Okay.
So it was a Decathlon India
tube in
Uzbekistan. Okay. Which was like I was like, yeah, just hold up. And we put that. We took out all the powder and the tire liner which had become powdery. And in the race, I thought I had a puncture, so I couldn't push my bike that much. I don't know why. I felt I was losing control over my bike. And my coach was like, why are you not pushing? I'm like, I cannot. I'm just puncture hua hai. Then he realized in the last round, puncture hua hai. regardless, I got that done. Regardless of all of that and that drama which happened, you know, like if you see the Japanese, if you see the Koreans, they travel with an entire team. Over here, it was just me and my coach.
This also gets me to the next question. We recently had the Paris Olympics, and we bagged 5 medals at the Olympics, but 29 medals in the Paralympics, which has been India's the best medal haul so far. Now seeing India's vast population, I'm sure there's also a significant number of specially abled people, and you have turned your disability into an ability. What message would you like to give to them who can take up sport or any other activity as a medium to make their lives more successful, more more meaningful? What would your message be to them?
So I completely have like my hats off to individuals with disabilities who push themselves to achieve all what they do, right? But I always think from my own personal I've always pushed to do more.
Right.
Like I represented India, right?
Right.
After that, the goal was to reach the Paralympics. Unfortunately, as I felt very unwell this entire last year with an autoimmune condition called psoriasis, made my dystonia much worse. Almost entire year I was on and off. 24, I was bedridden, on and off.
It's been a tough year for you.
Pathetic year for me. One of the most difficult years after my initial dystonia diagnosis.
Correct.
So that's how this year has been for me. I'm just getting back to everything. The goal is yet... See, I'm such a person who is not going to give up till I reach the Paralympics. But I think a lot of Paralympians also limit themselves in today's times. They are happy with 1 or 2 cycles of Paralympics. See, I'm not denying the doubt that it in itself is a lovely achievement, okay? And Paralympians should be, of course, they should be proud and all of that. But should they be satisfied with a government job, with that fame, which they get, with a good social media following, with them just winning 1 medal? Or doesn't it create impact, Parth, when Paralympics is just a feather in your cap? When a Paralympian, I will not take names, they come back after their medals and their medals which they've got, and they are hungry to be the first person with dwarfism to climb Mount Everest. They are the first person in a wheelchair to do something else. That in my views, in my eyes, now that is me, that is my personal choice, is a true Paralympian. That is the person I would call a Paralympian. A person who never settles, never takes shortcuts, always keeps at it and finds that other destination to actually conquer. So I think a lot of individuals, yes, can be para-athletes, but Paralympians, I feel in today's times, are also becoming complacent. That they are happy with achieving what is attainable. Okay, yes, I understand. It's hard. But if you really want to create impact, which I want to with my life, where I say that I put my life on the line for diversity, equity, inclusion.
Now let's come to that piece. You tell us. I'll break my question into 2 parts. One is, what can we do as a society to help more special abled individuals to come up and feel accepted? And second part is the inclusion, diversity. You are working tirelessly to prove yourself, back those titles, so that you have a compelling story to tell that, see, I could do it, so can you. That is what you're ready to put your life on.
Exactly.
What you went through, nobody else goes through that.
Exactly.
That is what will give you the most amount of happiness. And
you tell me about it.
Exactly. So, tell us about the entire project Indifference that you're so working and vocal about.
So, the whole goal for me will be Paralympics. Okay, good. 1 cycle, 2 cycle. I get a medal. I don't. Cool. It will just be a feather in the cap for me.
You're not going to settle down after that.
Yeah. No. I'm going to come back. I'm going to think about swimming the English Channel, climbing Mount Everest.
Okay.
Swimming from from India to Sri Lanka. Doing all of this to create impact for DEI.
Wow.
So that is what I believe in. Okay. And that, so a lot of people say, Paralympics, Olympics, equivalent
exactly.
Paralympics. For me, I'm not devaluing it.
You don't want to stop. You're not.
I just don't want to stop.
Stop over there. And
I want to create more of an impact than
Yeah.
just the Paralympics. I want
Correct.
to change 1.4
It's not the
billion
end goal.
people's views, about people with disabilities.
Yes.
Now, if I have to do that, I have to do that time and again. So that is where this whole thing like project indifference, that I do not care of what people think about me.
Yeah.
What they think about my thought process or my views, I'm going to do whatever I want to actually create change in India.
Yeah.
That can be anything. That can be comedy, which I do. That can be raising awareness through pushing my body. That can be me putting my life under risk to raise awareness for it. For me, getting the best corporate job. It's all about that.
It's all about that.
It's all about, I am not going to care. I am going to live my life to the fullest.
And try to create an impact, a dent in the universe, so that people see me, they feel inspired and they don't go through all of that. Simple as that.
Simple. And when you told me, Parth, that how do we treat individuals with disabilities and how
can we as a society make it more inclusive?
Inclusive, right?
Yeah. As a common man, what can he do?
First of all, just treat that individual as a person. Like you are treating me as a person. You're not treating me as a special case or whatever. You're just talking to me as a friend, right? Do that now. Instead of us as Indians, which we love doing, I don't know why we do. But now wherever I go, I even in restaurants, I take a corner seat to eat because, people just stare. Instead of staring, I'm saying...
give a smile. Why not? It will make so much happiness.
Smile. Go and talk to that person
Yeah,
randomly.
go and talk.
Kaisa hai? What's up? How are you doing? Okay, if that person doesn't want to talk to you, that person with a disability doesn't want to talk to you, cool. But instead of just making it difficult for that person to live it day in and day out,
that itself will...
why can't you just smile?
Just smile, yeah. Instead of...
And treat that person just
as normal.
As a human being.
That will suffice.
That will
And
suffice. That is more than enough for inclusion.
I know. What about diversity and equity? You want to talk on that as well?
So, diversity and equity will come when there is inclusion. Without inclusion, there will be no diversity
Correct.
and equity.
It's so interlinked.
Till now, I feel India is only stuck at inclusion and figuring out inclusion.
Yeah.
We have to yet, as a society of 1.4 billion and crawling and creeping out,
Yes.
creeping on top, we have to yet figure out diversity and equity. Diversity and equity is just a lingo which is used to meet the goals of a company in today's times. We, as an Indian society, are yet not doing inclusion right.
Right.
So we need to get inclusion right, and then we need to think about diversity and equity.
No, definitely. I think, we are taking baby steps. And I'm sure with Project Indifference and your diversity, inclusion and equity, with your efforts, constant efforts, will definitely, inspire people and help people that they don't go through what you have been through your journey.
Somewhere this show is all about no shortcuts, right?
Right.
But I, through my life, want to give shortcuts to individuals with disabilities so they do not go through what I have gone through.
That's
so that's a take on,
right.
I guess, no shortcuts
Is
for me.
Is that the meaning of no shortcuts for you?
For me, yes. Hands down. That's what I resonate with.
Absolutely, absolutely. So is there anything you'd like to add to our conversation before we, close?
There is one thing which I would like to add, Support individuals with disabilities. I'm talking in the smallest levels.
Correct. Be a little kind, support.
It can be a person you see. it can be my story and my journey. Like, of course, so I'm talking even if it is a shout out to companies, even if it is a shout out to this. If you see an inspiring story, okay, or genuinely go out to support that person, if that person is really genuine. Now, example for me, okay, Parth, I am yet looking out for sponsors to sponsor all what I'm doing is making the country proud, right?
Yes.
So I'm yet looking out for sponsors who will see that vision the way I see it, see that hunger in me,
Yes.
and support me to eventually make me reach the Paralympics. That's it. I do not want your single rupee in my bank account. I'm working for that.
Yeah.
I just want you to believe in my journey and my story
Yes.
to help me reach the Paralympics.
Yeah.
So this is a shout out. One, let me be a little selfish. I think so. In life, it's good to be a little selfish when you have such a noble cause. So it's a
Correct.
big shout out to anyone watching this
Yeah.
who genuinely sees that hunger in me and genuinely sees how bad I want it and that I'm not going to stop. To actually come on board my journey and my profile to actually help me create that impact where I do not want your money, but my cause needs your money, where I require it for, the travel, the bike,
Of course.
bike stuff, whatever
No,
you say it, right?
That is for sure, Wafrid. That's a very, we completely understand. And, it all starts from believing in yourself.
Exactly.
You believe in yourself 200%.
Yeah.
And you never give up. And I think that belief, it reflects in your words and in your actions. The cause that you're working for is very noble. It is very patriotic and very philanthropic also. The kind of content and the way you want to put it across is in a very entertaining, humorous way rather than just preaching, which is so sweet of you. And it's been great interacting with you on the No Shortcuts podcast.
Same here, man. Same here. Same here.
So, Wafrid, you're a living example. And at Scott, we are very proud to associate with you and, work together.
Of
We
course.
wish you the best and
Of
more
course.
energy, more power. And, we give a salute to your parents and a
Thank
shout
you.
out to all the people who have, helped you in your journey.
Hands down.
Who have been a
Hands
ray
down.
of hope.
Hands down. That is very important
That
to
is very
say.
important.
Because all what I have achieved, it wouldn't have been possible, Parth,
Yes.
without those few angels,
Exactly. Few angels, let me say that.
well wishers in my life.
Who have given you a shoulder, who have given you a leg up, and heard you, just sat and talked to you. That is what matters,
But and this and ending it on this note, even if you as an individual or a company cannot support an individual like me and in my cause and my this with what I want or need
Right.
or my necessities, it's okay. Just smile at the next person with a disability and you will be doing me a favor.
I know.
You see?
The best things in life, they don't cost any money. And a smile is so simple and so easy to do. But yet, we have to yearn for it. So
I think India is learning.
India is learning.
And this podcast will help India learn quicker, faster. And yeah.
100%. Wafrid. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram and the No Shortcuts podcast on Spotify or the Epilogue Media app. A big shout out to our friends at Epilogue Media who produced this show. If you have any suggestions, comments, please let us know in the comments below. Until next time, see you soon.